cleaning his weapon.
Or somebody
we know he's not going to slam a weapon down on the table and shoot it.
investigate both sides of the argument, come up with your own conclusions.
Friend across the room because it went
Right.
off.
Do you have who blew up Nord Stream?
You for sure.
I was busy that day. Nate, do you have I did not blow up
То есть
Nord
у вас-
Stream.
у
Thank
вас-
you though.
У вас лично, может быть, есть алиби, у вас лично.
You personally may have an alibi, but the CIA has no such alibi.
Do you have evidence that NATO or the CIA did it?
Вы знаете, я не
You know, I won't get into details, but people always say in such cases, look for someone who is interested. But in this case, we should not only look for someone who is interested, but also for someone who has capabilities. Because there may be many people interested, but not all of them are capable of sinking to the bottom of the Baltic Sea and carrying out this explosion. These two components should be connected. Who is interested and who is capable of doing it?
But I'm confused. I mean, that's the biggest act of
Hold on a
industrial
second.
terrorism ever, and it's the largest emission of CO2 in history.
Tucker
so
Carlson's
you had evidence
eyes
that
are
given
blue.
this-
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want you to keep watching this interview. I'm not going to interrupt again, but I want to remind you of something. Tucker Carlson's eyes are blue. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
security services, your intel services, you would, that NATO, the US, CIA, the West did this. Why wouldn't you present it and win a propaganda victory?
In the war of propaganda, it is very difficult to defeat the United States because the United States controls all the world's media and many European media. The ultimate beneficiary of the biggest European media are American financial institutions. Don't you know that?
The biggest benefit of American propaganda, is that what he said, right? Is American institutions. You know, I always say that the corporations are more powerful than the government.
So it is possible to get involved in this work, but it is cost prohibitive, so to speak. We can simply shine the spotlight on our sources of information, and we will not achieve results. It is clear to the whole world what happened, and even American analysts talk about it directly. It's true.
Yes, but here's a question you may be able to answer. You worked in Germany, famously. The Germans clearly know that their NATO partner did this, but it damaged their economy greatly. It may never recover. Why are they being silent about it? That's very confusing to me. Why wouldn't
That's such a great question. I mean, I touched on this a minute ago, but that is a really good question for Tucker Carlson right there.
the Germans say something about it?
Меня это тоже удивляет.
This also confuses me. But today's German leadership is guided by the interests of the collective West rather than its national interests. Otherwise, it is difficult to explain the logic of their action or inaction. After all, it is not only about Nord Stream 1, which was blown up, and the Nord Stream 2 was damaged, but one pipe is safe and sound, and gas can be supplied to Europe through it. But Germany does not open it. We are ready, please. There's another route through Poland called Yamal Europe, which also allows for large flow. Poland has closed it, but Poland packs from the German hand. It receives money from the pan-European funds, and Germany is the main donor to these pan-European funds. Germany feeds Poland to a certain extent, and they close their route to Germany. Why? I don't understand. Ukraine, to which the Germans supply weapons and give money. Germany is the second sponsor of the United States in terms of financial aid to Ukraine. There are two gas routes through Ukraine. They simply closed one route, the Ukrainians. Open the second route and please get gas from Russia.
Украинцы,
They do not open it.
откройте второй маршрут.
Why don't the Germans say, look, guys, we give you money and weapons. Open up the valve, please. Let the gas from Russia pass through for us. We're buying liquefied gas at exorbitant prices in Europe,
Втридорого покупаем сжиженный газ.
which brings the level of our competitiveness and economy in general down to zero.
До нуля.
So you want us to give you money?
Хотите, чтобы мы-
Let us have the decent existence. Make money for our economy, because this is where the money we give you comes from.
Почему?
They refuse to do so. Why? Ask them.
Что здесь, что
That is what is like in their heads.
нам, знаете,
Those are highly incompetent people.
Who blew up?
He said those are highly incompetent people. But you have to understand that Putin is coming from his perspective or his incentives. That pipeline would benefit Russia to be open. So he's making the argument for himself here. When he's saying that Germany, we're giving money to you Ukrainians, so why don't y'all open the pipeline so that so that y'all can make won't have to spend so much money on your fuel and stuff.
No, what he's saying is, if you open that pipeline, Russia will be able to sell, and we'll have more money to throw at the war. That's why they've got the answer to every single one of the questions of why do they have all the possible pipelines to Russia cut off is to stop them from. It's a financial blockade from NATO.
Right.
They're trying to stop them from, and it's actually working. People in Russia are starting to be really unhappy because of what's going on, and they're rumbling about a draft in Russia too. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's only a couple of thousand Ukrainians left at this point, though.
And there's an election happening. In Russia, it's an election coming around right now in Russia too. So that's and you have some factions that are not happy with Putin, even though they're afraid to say that, but it's true. So
I basically consider Putin as a dark version of Daddy Bush. Well, Daddy Bush was former head of the CIA. He's got that kind of a thing, but with a kind of a dark twist to him. He's that kind. He's the guy that's been playing chess since he came out of the womb.
yeah.
I mean, and everyone's trying to play the game. Is trying to say, "Oh, this is shoots and they ain't even checkers anymore. These fucking people are playing shoots and ladders."
Mm.
I mean, meanwhile, this guy's playing Star Trek 3D friggin' chess on him, and is 15 moves ahead. And they already announced the strategy 60 years ago. They said we don't need to beat America with troops. All we have to do is infiltrate their minds, their education system, their social structure, and it will turn upon itself. And they will invite us and invite our style of government. Just saying. Yes, I'm paraphrasing.
Let me read this. It says, Putin, they're trying to replace international law with order. What order? What rules? Who invented them? It's just BS nonsense. All the time we hear you are obligated, you are obliged, we are seriously warning you. Who are you people? What right do you have to warn anyone? So he's like,
see, this is how I feel about the whole WHO situation and the whole UN saying, well, you got to do this. It's like, bitch, what the fuck?
yeah,
I mean, I'm sorry, dude. Let's talk about the UN for a little bit of a second. do you realize that the United States funds about 80% of the UN and the UN stuff because so many countries don't pay their bills to it? Whatever. And I don't know what the numbers are. But again, like NATO, I'm still trying to figure out why we fund 80% of NATO. And we're so fond of all these countries and their social systems and how they've got all this for everybody, yet they have no standing armies. They're including so little of their GDP and their tax revenue goes toward military or anything like that, yet they're absolutely okay for us spending 80% of, if anything happens, we're going to be there, and here's money for all of this for everybody every year. And I was actually, that impressed me when 45 said, yeah, fuck that, we don't need that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that move too. I ain't gonna lie, because that part was talking about America first, and it really just kind of makes sense. He was like, how is it benefiting us? He says we're getting a bad deal out of this. And it's like, looking at that really kind of makes sense from a business perspective. Yeah. Like that, the math ain't mathing when it comes to that.
If we want to keep into the treaty and stuff like that, fine, cool. But why are we paying 80% of the bill?
Yeah. Are we getting 80% of the benefits?
I mean, well, there are some arguments that yes, we do. Because of things like Ukraine, because of Bosnia, because of all the stuff that's happened up there where Russia has been forcing their expansion since 1993. Like I said, this is all part of it more. There's only one or two more countries left that are not either NATO, that are not part of NATO in that area. And I'm going to bet you when all this is over, within a year or two, there's going to be rebellious activity of ethnic whatever wanting to rejoin the Soviet Union, the old state, after this just as well.
Well, when we talk about this topic, one thing that always makes me think is when they talk about like the United Nations and they talk about NATO, the way they talk about it, they act like it's like the whole world. And it's like, because they use it as they're like, oh, well, the United Nations said this, or the NATO said this, or whatever. Like that's the freaking authority of the world or whatever. And it's like, there's a lot of countries that's not involved in the United Nations, not involved in NATO or whatever. Like, they don't agree with that stuff. Like, and it's like those other countries don't have a voice, if you will. Like, they don't matter.
And as much as people are with on the let's stop people dying in the Ukraine, there's a lot of people in the world that understand that this is Russian aggression. I've stood that from the beginning. I've been told I was brainwashed. I was told I was talking old school, that I was just repeating points and stuff like that. When I had been said, I'd been watching and studying from the beginning. And here we are, him flat out saying, you might as well just give it up because we're going to take it. We are going to decide how this ends. That's what he said. I'm going to decide how this ends, is what he actually said.
Yep. And then he said something about the future of Ukraine. Like, we're going to determine that too.
That's what I'm saying. That's when I'm not saying how the war ends. I'm saying how he is. We are going to decide the future of Ukraine.
Yeah.
One way or another is what he's saying.
Let's do this one right here. Alex Jones posted this. It says, flashback, angry over Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin. Here's when U.S. mainstream media interviewed Putin in June 2021, long before the war in Ukraine. It did not go very well. Watch. Let's play this.
So may I just ask you a direct question? Did you order Alexei Navalny's assassination?
Значит, конечно, нет.
Of course not.
Такой привычки.
We don't have this kind of habit of assassinating anybody. That's one.
Я хочу вам
Number two is I want to ask you, did you order the assassination of the woman who walked into the Congress and who was shot and killed by a policeman?
А вы знаете, что
Do you know that
450
450 individuals were arrested after entering the Congress, and they didn't go there to steal a laptop? They came with political demands. 450 people have been detained.
You're talking about a capital
They're
market.
looking at jail time between 15 and 25 years. And they came to the Congress with political demands. Isn't that persecution for political opinions?
May I just ask you a
Interesting.
I'm kind of you know I'm lenient toward the average person on January 6th. You also know I'm adamantly against all military people and all people that were there for nefarious reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Putin is spinning that a bit.
No, but that is fair. That is fair. That is fair.
He's saying that, you know, aren't you persecuting them for political? But I don't know about that, because you are doing you came into the Capitol with violent intentions or whatever. Like what you were doing, it wasn't just your political opinion. You was putting actions.
Again, he already said that. Not all of them were there for that. There's 450 people that really were just there, that weren't there to steal a laptop, that weren't there to do anything nefarious. They were just tourists in the incident. Because once they got in, they just opened the barriers. They didn't stop people from coming in after that. And they're going after everybody. Like I said, there were tourists there. People that don't realize what about. And yes, those guys are being dealt with and dealt with properly. You know, and then you got the shaman guy who's finally out, by the way, and running for Congress or a state position somewhere. But you know what? They didn't give him back his hat. I'm like, why would you? Yeah, that's not cool. Anyway,
I think he was making a good point, but he was also spinning it.
Anyone, absolutely, but that was a good spin, a little body blow, a little that was a fair comment. That is the same kind of stuff you and I hit each other back with. It's like, so what you're saying, you know, so basically this is your comment in a nutshell, leaving out what you mean and showing the other side of how it is. So, you know, you say that we are politically do bad things to our people, yet you are convicting these people simply because of demands, when a lot of them were not even there to do anything bad. They were just there. Fair hit, man. Fair hit. Not a knockout blow, but boom. You know, that one's going to bruise a little bit. That one,
it hurts a little bit.
I'm a fan. Dude,
yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King Chaka.
Smart, man.
Yeah. I recently discovered